Is this what I need to use? Does it make a difference if I have it? Oh, for you, we'll just labor here, okay. Yeah. Well, good morning, everybody. Okay, you're awake, good, that's good to hear. I'm John Katko, I'm your congressman, and I'd like to say that I work for 700 and some odd thousand people, including you guys. I work for all of you, and we're here today to talk at Canton Woods about fraud prevention and keeping you safe from scams. Before I have a few comments here, but before I do want to tell you, early on in my career, from 1991 to 1995, before I went to become a federal prosecutor, it's really what drove me to become a federal prosecutor. I worked at Securities and Exchange Commission, and I can't tell you the number of cases I did that had to do with defrauding the elderly. It was unbelievable. One case in particular really stuck out in my mind. I chased a guy all over California who sold fake stock certificates to people, the elderly. He preyed on them and got them to invest in things that he said were surefire investments. One woman spent $100,000 of her teacher's pension, and he went and bought a Jaguar with it. And we got the Jaguar back, and he ended up going to jail. But it's always stunning to me the number of fraud schemes that are out there and how careful you have to be in today's day and age. So I hope you all learned something today. And I appreciate the media being here because it's important for them to understand this is a huge problem, and these folks are going to talk about it. It's a very serious problem. I've heard from countless individuals in our community about scams received by phone, by mail, and on the internet, and I'm sure you have too. It's an issue I've been focused on in Congress, and I'm honored to be joined today by experts from the Federal Trade Commission and U.S. Postal Inspection Service to answer your questions and provide you with best practices for avoiding scams and fraud. And I guess the best advice I could give you is, if it sounds too good, it probably is. And that's probably the best one to go by. We'll hear shortly from Derek Rill, a specialist with the FTC, and Ryan McElhaney, a postal inspector from U.S. Postal Inspection Service. I used to work with you all a lot when I was a prosecutor. You were great. I'd like to briefly give you an overview of some of our recent efforts in Congress to prevent fraud and keep you safe. I'll just name a couple of the bills. How many people are sick of the robocalls? Yeah. All right. Well, I signed on to a bill that stops Bad Robocalls Act, it's called. And it enhances consumer protection and privacy from robocalls. And it's a problem we're continually working on in Homeland Security. The Strengthening Healthcare Fraud Prevention Task Force Act of 2019 establishes a comprehensive partnership between the federal government and healthcare to identify and combat instances of insurance fraud. Preventing Crimes Against Veterans Act of 2019. Anybody here a veteran? All right, thank you for your service. And there's an act to help you all out. It establishes an enforceable federal penalty for defrauding veterans of their benefits. The Senior Security Act, which establishes a task force within the Securities and Exchange Commission, where I used to work, to combat fraudulent schemes aimed at senior investors. And the Taxpayer First Act, which significantly expands identity theft and fraud prevention programs at the Internal Revenue Service. Now, we're talking about you all, but don't feel bad, because it's happened to me too. Somebody hacked into the government system since I've been in Congress, and they tried to use that information to try and open 2 bank accounts in my name in Seattle, Washington. So it happens to everybody, and it's a constant problem we got to be aware of, and that's why it's so important that we're here today. Now, I've also supported funding through the appropriations process, which is a funding mechanism in Congress for IRS taxpayer services and senior protection programs, and also regional information sharing systems, or RIS, which are key in combating identity theft. And now I'd like to invite Derek and Ryan to speak on their own work with the FTC and the Postal Service. And since they both have ties on and I don't, I'll let them go. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Congressman. My name is Derek Rill, and my job is to get members of Congress to do things like this. And a lot of times I got to be very persistent. And so what I'd like to say to the congressman and his staff, in particular Gavin Gretzky, it's a big deal, because what I'm hoping happen here today is that you take what you learn and spread it around. And so if more people did these kinds of events, it would be great. I appreciate what you're doing in Washington, and that's a tough job. But it's great to know that you still care about what's happening here on the front lines. So thank you for that, and thank you, Gavin, for making this happen. Again, what I'm hoping happens here today is that we're doing a classroom-style environment, and that you all will learn about how to develop a force field of fraud. Let's stop scams before they happen. It's not the people that are in this room that I'm worried about. you all are taking the time to come to something like this, that suggests to me that you're going to check out these offers. But what I really hope happens is that you take what you learn, including this workbook, and spread it around. Gavin's got about 200 of these. And so if you want multiple copies, Gavin gets 100% of the commission on everything we give away free. Okay, so do it for Gavin. And do it for the FTC. We hope you graduate today with your diploma as a consumer education ambassador on behalf of the federal government, FTC, postal inspector, and the congressman. Take what you learned today, give it to your loved ones, and we can do something about fraud, which is a huge problem. 3 million complaints to the Federal Trade Commission last year. More than 3 million complaints. $1.5 billion lost to fraud, and that's just what's reported to us. Studies have shown up to $30 billion is lost annually, and I believe it because I'm getting phone calls at the Federal Trade Commission coming through Congress, and we're doing what we can to stop it. What kind of fraud are we seeing? I know you're knowing it because we're all getting those phone calls, right? Imposter scams is our top complaint, more than 200,000 complaints. All of these complaints are about people who are calling. Let's see if we can play a game here, classroom style. What kind of calls are you getting? I'll start off with my first one. Pretty common. Hi, I'm with the IRS. You owe us money. If you don't pay up now, I'm taking you to jail. We got a police car on the way. We need you to pay in iTunes cards. They got a disco ball and a dance hall, and all they need are tunes? Does that sound like the IRS to you? No. Who else? What else are you hearing? What kind of imposter scams are you getting? Social Security took over as the top imposter scam. Congratulations, Social Security Administration. You guys are now the lucky imposter that everybody wants to be because there's changes in your Social Security programs. Your Medicare cards. You know how they're replacing those. I suspect most of yours have been replaced. But you'll get a phone call from, say, hey, I'm with the Medicare. I'm with the Social Security Administration. We're changing your card. We need your Social Security number before we move forward. It's a scam. Tech support, Microsoft calls. Microsoft pops up on your computer. Hi, understand you're having problems with your computers. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm with Microsoft. I'm here to help you out. I got an Apple. That's not legit. It's a scam. So therefore, these things are coming in all the time, and we just got to be ready. All right? How about the family emergency scam? Who remembers that one? I don't have a grandson, and yet he's in the Dominican Republic, and he needs me to get him out of jail. Any others?
Expired car warranties.
Expired car warranties. That's a whole different story, but let's who's on the do not call registry? There's a scam call right there. Don't answer it. So do not call registry. You can groan now. Yes, it's a very challenging situation for us at the Federal Trade Commission, but we are working on that. But here's the point. Once they place that call, they're breaking the law. So turn them in. We're hoping more people will report fraud before they fall for it. Be a hero. Help end ripoffs. FTC.gov. I'll be talking in some rhymes today because it helps me with my speech, but I hope it also helps you remember. If you want real love, go to FTC.gov. Not for the romance scam. No, we're not part of that, except for busting it. We want you to come to our website because everything I'm going to talk about today, I'm pretty sure there's nothing that we talk about today that will not be something that you can find advice or where to report it, FTC.gov. So our website is a great place to start.
Let me interrupt you real quick.
Go ahead.
I think it's really important for people to understand that if you don't speak up, and when you hear about these scams and report them, then they may not know about them. They may or may not, but if they know, they can use that intelligence from what you tell them. So speaking up really does help. It definitely does. Am I right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I mean, wouldn't it be great if here's what's happening. By you all and your efforts today, more people are learning about how to report it to the Federal Trade Commission. We have less victims, more complaints, more opportunities to do stuff about this. So wouldn't it be great if we had like 600 million complaints, or let's be reasonable, the 3 million complaints, what if we double them? We get 6 million complaints and fewer people losing money, $500 million lost. So do the math. Less people falling for fraud, more people knowing where to report it, more opportunities for us to do something about it, and that's a pretty good equation. It's a win-win-win. Yes, ma'am.
For people who don't have a computer, do you have a phone number they can call?
I'm glad you, yes. Thank you so much for asking that. It's in your workbook, 877-FTC-HELP. How many people have internet here today? Okay, good, because there's a lot of things that are websites that will alert you to. But let me finish up with the imposter scams. There's so many. There's as many as Baskin-Robbins has.
I'll write you down for the question, okay?
Yeah.
He's just giving an opening statement right now. You got a quick question, though?
No, he was asking a few minutes ago about different kinds of scams, so I thought of one. So I'm just contributing.
Okay, go ahead.
And I don't know if you consider this like part of the thing. I've been hearing a lot about the ransom taking over computers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the tech support scam that I talked about, where Microsoft is calling and you've got a problem with your computer. I'm here to fix it. What they're doing is they're breaking your computer and then holding you hostage. Ransom.
Well, ransomware is also a very
Yeah.
big problem nationwide. I'm on I chair the cybersecurity subcommittee on Homeland Security, and that's my it's in my work area. They will take a hospital, hack into the hospital system, and then they'll shut down that system and say, you either pay us money or we're going to keep the system shut down. Doctors don't have access to medical records. And so a lot of times, the hospitals and, for example, our government entities will pay. If you don't, they send a virus which basically destroys all the computers. So it's a real problem as well.
And the FTC has information on our website about how to protect your computer from fraud. So things like technology that blocks the bad stuff. So ftc.gov, 877-FTC-HELP. It's right here on your booklet. 877-382-4357. So real quickly, a couple more imposter scams. Here's a new one. The pastor imposter. They are taking your pastor's likeness and asking you to send money or click on an attachment. Another one, your utility bill. You're overdue. No, I'm not. But you got to pay us money right away. And think about the payment mechanisms they're asking you to use. They want you to wire money, or they want you to use gift cards, like the iTunes card, or like like Walmart or others. And so, gift cards are for gifts, not for payments. Beware of that. That's another clue. But let me tell you this, one simple tip. This tip covers everything we've brought up so far that will keep you from falling victim to the imposter scams. This covers them all. Here we go. If you didn't initiate the contact and they're asking you for money or your personal information, it's a scam. I cannot think of one instance where it's not.
Yeah, and just so you know, the IRS will never call you on an issue. And if they say call back the IRS, you have a problem, look, it's a scam. You'll get it in writing, they'll tell you. So if you get a call about the IRS owing money or your tax returns are screwed up,
It's a scam.
it's a total scam.
And so again, if you didn't initiate, we should investigate.
So thanks, Derek. I'm going to hear from Ryan, then we can go open up to questions. Ryan, you want to talk for a few minutes about the U.S. Postal Service side? And I'll tell you, when I was at the Securities and Exchange Commission, it was really before the internet was really booming. That's how old I am. And use of the mails was one of the primary ways of defrauding people, especially like back then. The Nigerian fraud schemes were huge. I don't know if they still are, but mailers that you get a lot of them are bogus. So carry away, Ryan.
All right, morning everyone. My name is Ryan McElhaney. I'm a postal inspector here in Syracuse. How many are familiar with postal inspectors? Anybody? All right. A little background. We're actually the oldest federal law enforcement agency. Today is actually the 244th birthday of the Postal Inspection Service. So happy birthday, Inspection Service. We investigate crimes involving the mail. And what are those? Pretty much everything touches on the mail. What we're talking about here is mail fraud schemes. And we see a tremendous amount of that even here in upstate New York. Primarily what we're seeing, we used to see the Nigerian schemes. Everyone heard of the Nigerian schemes? A lot of times the Nigerian schemes involve the mailing of checks. They would send you a check, ask you to put a check through your account, ask you to send some of the money back. It might be a mystery shopper. Anyone heard of those mystery shopper scams? We're going to send you a check. I want you to take this check, cash it, go to Walmart, send a MoneyGram to see how Walmart is working, and then do a review. They don't care about the review. They're just sending you a fraudulent check, running it through your account, collecting the proceeds, and then you're left holding the tab once the bank figures out that that is a bad check. Kind of moving away from those, we still see them. How many people have heard of Jamaican lottery schemes? Right? That's the new thing, and the information isn't out there yet, but we're seeing a tremendous amount of that. We're seeing all these lottery schemes that people are talking about. A lot of them are originating in Jamaica, right? And one of the things I like to tell people that helps them recognize these is when they call up, are they asking you for $10,000 right off the bat? When you get a mailing solicitation or a telephone call? No. They're not asking for everything up front. They're asking you to pay a very small amount, $100. $50. It seems reasonable. And then the next call, they want $500. And the next call, they want $1,000. And then the next call, oh, your account was mishandled by the previous guy. He was fired, so we have to start over. Now they want another $1,000. And this is to get your lottery winnings. And then you'll end up talking to somebody from Customs and the IRS, and it goes on and on and on until you're out $200,000, $300,000. I've seen people's accounts wiped clean, a life's worth of work gone. And we investigate these crimes. In Syracuse recently, we actually had a Jamaican national that was extradited from Jamaica for perpetuating these schemes and victimizing people in our area. He was arrested, he pled guilty, has not been sentenced yet, but we dragged him out of Jamaica. So that's good. The bad part is the money's gone, right? Once the money leaves your hands, that money is gone. So the most important thing, like Derek said, is to prevent it in the first place. That's our position. We'll try and chase these people down. We'll try and arrest them. We'll try and get them convicted. But the most important thing is don't send them the money in the first place. And in this day and age, you have to be skeptical of every communication you get. If they're calling you, like the Congressman said, like Derek said, if they're calling you and asking you for something, it's probably a scam, right? It's going to be a scam. If it's a lottery, they don't ask for taxes up front. They'll call up, they'll claim to be a lottery that you never entered. They'll claim to be Publishers Clearinghouse. They'll claim to be any number of things. And are you going to touch base on the lists that you get on?
Yeah, I want to make something perfectly simple about lotteries. If you are told that you've won a foreign lottery, first of all, you didn't participate in it, it's against the law, period. You cannot win a foreign lottery. If you are in the United States, it's against the law. So rule them out. Just rule them out. That makes it pretty easy on us, doesn't it? And then the other thing that I would like to say is I talked about if it passes the you didn't initiate, we should investigate rule. If it passes that rule and you're still interested in sending money somewhere, please give us a call, 877-FTC-HELP. Leave absolutely no doubt. Check everything out. The Federal Trade Commission is a good place to start because we may end up sending you to Ryan because if it involves the mail, Postal can throw them in jail.
I want to make an observation for a second, and this is important. How many people here are fully retired and not working? Raise your hands. Okay. So you have fixed incomes, you have your retirement income, and whatever, right? And how many worry sometimes about paying the bills or making ends meet, right? So everyone does, and everyone would like to have a little bit more money. Well, they know that. And that's why the seniors are such a big target, because in the back of your mind, God, if I just had a little bit extra money, maybe I could get that thing for my grandkid, or maybe I could buy that car or whatever. And you have a fixed income, and you worry about that. That's what they prey on. That's what they're trying to do, make you think that, geez, I can get a little bit more money here, and well, how lucky am I to get this? And they start preying on that, and they reel you in. So that's why the scams amongst the elderly are probably and retired are probably some of the most prolific, is because they know that feeling of I wish I had a little bit more money, right? And they're trying to exploit that. So that's why these scams are so important to be aware of. And like I said at the outset, and we'll start asking questions now of you. If it sounds too good, it probably is, right? And that should be a good bellwether for you.
Yeah, I didn't cover the list. Please go ahead. How do you get on these lists where people are contacting you?
Yeah, right. You've got on one list. You've sent money in, right? You have now put yourself perpetually on a list, right? And these lists are almost treated as commodities, these lists of names. So I will see people, and a son or a daughter will bring in mail that their parent is getting, and there will be thousands of mailed solicitations, thousands of them. And their parent may be participating in a good number of them, right? So you're going to get absolutely bombarded with these things, especially if you send some money. And there are lists, even if you haven't sent money, you are going to end up on these lists, right? There are lists, and they know who they're targeting. And they will send these lists around. Various people have these lists, and you will get calls from a large number of people with similar scams, maybe even the same scam. I'll just mention it real quickly. I got a gentleman in the area who was victimized. He sent probably close to $100,000 of his own money, wiped him out, right? Sent it to Jamaica. That money was gone. A year later, he gets contacted by somebody claiming to be a lawyer in Jamaica who's going to recover his money. Same group, right? His name was on a list. This guy sends money. So another group called up with a different scheme. We're going to get him and make him think we're getting his money back when in fact we're just taking more money.
That's also two things. First of all, I will talk about the do not call registry, but let's use this as a rule. When it comes to the phone, if the number's unknown, leave it alone. Because just answering the phone lets them know you're alive. You know, I actually took a phone call at the Federal Trade Commission from a scammer, knowing it was a scammer, just because I wanted to let them know, hey, actually I was telling Ryan about this. They called, they got through. How you doing today? And I actually responded, I'm busy as heck trying to bust you. Can I find out where you live and let's meet? And I'll bring my friend Ryan with me. By the way, they're great partners. They're in every mailbox. So they have the criminal authority. We have the civil authority. A lot of times we can shut a business down, and then we bring in folks like Ryan and his team, and they actually bring criminal charges, put people in jail. So great partner. I'm glad they were here today. So thank you.
Let's start a discussion with you all. We want to hear your concerns. We don't want to just talk to you. So do you have questions or concerns or anything that you want to bring up to us, or stories you want to share? Yes, go on. Go ahead. It's quite all right. Thank you.
I've gotten multiple calls from 911 that says that you owe back taxes. If you don't call us back right away, we're sending the cops to come get you. It's like from a 911 number. It's like, seriously?
So what was your first reaction when you first got that call?
I let it go to voicemail because I've never had 911 call me before.
Right. But did you feel like
Yeah, it scared me because what did I do wrong? It's like everything. I'm always getting in trouble on my own. I don't need any more.
So that's the point I wanted to make. They're scaring the heck out of you.
Yeah.
That's your initial reaction is what I wanted you to do. It's fear.
I listened to the voicemail, and it was somebody that couldn't hardly speak English, but they just kept saying, you're going to be under arrest. They're going to send police to your house if you don't call us back right away.
So did you
I deleted the voicemail.
Did you report it to anybody?
I did not. It scared me. I just didn't want to deal with it. It's like I didn't do anything wrong that I knew of.
So Ryan and Derek, let me ask you this for that. Can you, if someone calls you and they give you the phone number that they're using, can that phone number be put into some sort of database?
And I think you're talking about legislation that makes that stronger. Here's the answer. First of all, numbers are being spoofed. If you get a phone number that's close to your home phone number, that's because they're trying to make you think they're a neighbor. If you get a phone number that looks like it's from 911, I don't know of 911 calling out, first of all. And second of all, that number's spoofed, so relax. The 202 numbers, they use my number. Make it look like it's coming from the government. So what are we doing about that? Technology, we have provided from the Federal Trade Commission. We did a $50,000, we did 3 of them. 3 contests to come up with technology that can block and reroute these calls. And a lot of what we're having problems with that they're helping us is the phone companies. We want them to do something about those numbers that are not legitimate phone numbers. So the Federal Trade Commission, those numbers that you report to us used to be so frustrating because you're like, you guys can't do anything about that. Well, no, actually we can. We are turning those phone numbers over to phone companies and asking them to vet the calls. If they are not legitimate phone numbers that nobody's using, put them on permanent block.
So if I give you my phone number,
Well, 911 would be an easy one, but I wouldn't block it.
But if I give you my phone number, could it be blocked from these calls being coming to me?
No, because they're sneaking, and we talked about routing the money. What's happening is a lot of these calls are coming from international places where we can't get after them.
So just so you
I've
understand.
never given any money or anything to anyone,
Good.
but I'm still getting I get like 30 phone calls a
You're
day.
part of a certain
and I don't
demographic
answer.
group that they're targeting, am I right with that?
That's correct. And also, there's been, everyone hear about these data breaches in the news?
Yeah.
Your information's out there. It includes phone numbers, it includes addresses. So I get these calls.
Credit card.
We all get these calls, right?
And that's actually a perfect time for us to shift, because even if you follow that rule that I talked about, you didn't initiate, we should investigate, you can still become a victim of fraud because your information is almost certainly in the hands of somebody who got it illegally. There have been a lot of breaches, and this is a very recent situation that's changing. Equifax was responsible for more than 140 million people having their personal information breached. So it's in the hands of, hopefully, somebody that's not going to do anything with it.
Understand what they do with that information. That's another thing you should be aware of. My information's out there because they hack the government system. They have your social security number, likely. They have your date of birth, right? They have your identity, your home address. So they can use that when they're contacting you to make it sound like they're legit, right? Because they have that information. Oh, and sometimes they just need a little bit more information from you. Then they take that information and they open accounts and open bank accounts or whatever. So they may have some of your information, and that's enough for them to contact you and get more. But her question about the phone calls is something I've been trying to get at in Congress. There is technology that's developing that when you get a phone call, sometimes you see it. I've seen it a couple times now, where it says likely a scam or something. And the alert that's coming up. That's what we're trying to do more of, to get the phone companies to, like if they think through their technology that it's a bogus number or that they took a legitimate number but they're using it for bad purposes, that can pop up on your phone and say likely a scam. So then you make a choice whether you want to answer that call or not, right? So that's part of it too. And a lot of times with these, one more thing, a lot of times with these things, they want you to answer, like he said, to verify that it is you, it is your home, you are alive, and then they can start trying to perpetuate the fraud from there. So that's part of the problem too. So if you're in doubt, don't answer.
And as for the Equifax data breach, you may be eligible for money or identity theft prevention services, credit monitoring services for the next 10 years. So a couple things. There's call blocking technology, first of all, that will help you. And if you go to the FTC's website, ftc.gov/robocall, you will get to a site that will tell you more about how you can actually sign up to have your phone block these calls. And this technology is coming along much, much more quickly, and I'm hopeful that we can be... When the Do Not Call registry first came out, people were very pleased. For about 7-8 years, we didn't get a lot of phone calls. Bad guys caught up with us. Now we're catching up to them, and we're going to actually see what we can do about making it peaceful. And when the phone rings, you could actually know who's on the other side.
Any other questions, concerns out here? I know some people look like they were going to ask questions. Or, do you have any stories about scams that you have had, or attempted scams?
We did get a phone call recently from ourselves.
Yeah.
Looked down the number, it was
Yeah.
our number.
Yep.
I got one of those. So I didn't answer it. We don't answer any calls we don't know.
Yep.
But we do have something now that shows up on the caller ID that says spam, which is about half the phone calls we get in a week is spam.
How many of you all have checked out to see if you are eligible for services from Equifax over the data breach? You're going to want to go check that because there might be something there for you. I was a victim of that. My information was breached, and what I decided to do was to do the 10 years of identity theft prevention services that they offered me. And that helps me sleep at night. Also, I didn't talk about credit freezes. Are you aware of those, y'all? You know what a credit freeze is? So basically, a good idea that you can do for free is to shut down access to your credit reports. So if you cut off anybody from accessing your credit reports, even if somebody has your information, They can't open a loan under your name because nobody's going to be able to check out your credit worthiness. Your children are eligible to have their credit frozen. So you might want to check that out. Children, grandchildren. What was happening was bad guys were getting Social Security numbers for people age 5, establishing credit, and then once they established the credit, they destroyed it. And the poor kid, when he finally goes to college and he gets his first credit card, he can't get it because his credit's destroyed. How would you like to start off your financial life like that? Freeze your credit reports. Check your credit reports. You have the right to check each of your credit reports, one from each of the 3 credit reporting agencies annually. So here's an idea. Freeze your credit report, which you can actually open for a matter of hours, go get your loan, and then refreeze it. It's a PIN number. Makes things beautiful. You block all the bad stuff. You're checking your credit report 3 times a year, every 4 months. Equifax. These are in random order, but just so you know. Then I go check my credit report from TransUnion. Then I go check my credit report from Expedia. And then I'm starting the process all over again. If you have frozen your credit and you're checking your credit report every 4 months, the likelihood of you falling to identity theft goes way, way down.
Everyone know the website to check your credit
Thank
reports?
you.
You would think it's free credit report, but it's not. It's annualcreditreport.com. And that's something the government, I believe, set up so that we could each get a credit report. I also have a credit monitoring service that's free, and it alerts me, and I think that's what that one that you'll get if you were a victim of that breach. It alerts me anytime there's a change to my credit file. So if credit is taken out, I get an alert. Right? And you got to stay on top of that sort of stuff because it'll slip on there, and you might not even know till the next time you go to get a car or something else that your credit is been ruined because somebody took out credit cards in your name.
Has that happened to anybody here where you've had your stuff hacked? Well,
Happened to me, yeah.
You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, my credit cards have been taken over by somebody, and the bank usually lets you know that. The bank's pretty good, they'll call and let you know your credit card's been taken, you have to get another one, and they usually send back out, credit everything back to you. We've had it happen a couple times on our credit cards, but.
Right, so was your credit rating, your credit scores affected?
No, because the bank corrects everything once they find out that it happened.
I had a couple when they stole the government information, when they tried to open those accounts at a credit union in Seattle, that affected my credit score. And then, so I would wonder if you guys could talk for a minute about what happens if you do have your credit damaged because of this? What do you do? What can you do to it?
Real quickly, shopping online. Who shops online? What do you use? Credit card. By law, thank you, Congress, we are protected. I think it's the Fair Credit Billing Act. If you find out and dispute your credit card statement where you didn't incur the charges, if you do it within 60 days of the bill, you are not liable for any more than $50, and I've never actually heard of anyone being charged $50, right? They paid everything back, but here's the problem. Who ends up paying that fee? Yeah, the credit institutions lose billions and billions of dollars every year, and so if we can do something about identity theft, keeping our credit cards secure, we might be able to change that. It's a drag on the economy. So, and the other question you had was?
What do you do to repair your credit scores?
Repairing your credit card. If you find an error on your credit report, the Federal Trade Commission has information on how to dispute credit errors on your credit reports. Sometimes that's a struggle. This is an area where Gavin and I can work closely together. If you're having a problem fixing an error on your credit report, I can actually provide him congressional liaisons at the credit reporting agencies who will help clear up errors. So customer service would be the first way I'd like to go, but they definitely want to serve when it comes through Congress. So correcting errors on your credit reports is a job of the Federal Trade Commission to provide you that information. So we have that information on our website. And using credit cards is brilliant. Wiring money. If you send money to someone you don't know via the wire, you might as well throw it in the fire. Because that's their number one way, true or false, number one way of ripping people off.
That's true.
And they want that money wired. Why? Why do they want money wired?
Well, they like it, number one, because it's immediate, right? They don't have to wait for that money to get there. They can just show up and pick it up. And a lot of times people are wiring the money out of the country, right? Yeah, they don't even realize it, that they're wiring it out of the country. And we imagine the rest of the world is exactly like the United States, and it's not. So if somebody picking up money in another country, they may be a little more lax in keeping an eye and checking ID of the people who are picking it up. But the primary reason is because it's very fast. And they want it to be fast because they don't want you to change your mind, right? If you initiate a slow thing, if you mail something, how many people have heard about people mailing money in, right, as part of these scams, right? What are they using? Are they putting it in a letter, just a regular letter? They're using express mail, right? They're using overnight products. Why? Because they don't want you to have time to think about it. Same with the wire transfers. It's immediate. Once you initiate that transfer, if you go into a Walmart and do a MoneyGram or any one of those, Western Union, and you initiate that transfer, it is pretty much immediately available on the other end. And once they take that money, it is gone. There's no getting it back.
How much have we, another 5-7 minutes? I want to spend a few minutes before on something else. How many people here have computers? All right. How many people use them every day? Right. How many people make sure their security is safe on their computers? What do you do?
I don't know what you mean. I have an Apple and you don't need to put anything on it.
Well, what you need to do every so often is have someone take a look. I call it cyber hygiene. Highly likely that you're visiting sites, especially if you're a teenager like some of my kids, and they'll get into sites they don't know are bad. They're designed to get into your computer. And once they get into your computer, they can get all kinds of information off your computer. So you may not even know it, but you should always take your computers every so often, either talk to Apple, for example, call Apple Care if it's a Mac or one of those, or if it's a Dell, call Dell, whatever the maker is, and have them walk you through how to do a computer check on you to check for viruses, because chances are you have viruses on your computer and you have no idea. So if you have a virus on your computer, let's say, and you put in your credit card for something and your home address and all that, they can grab all that right off of there. So once the virus gets into your computer, it can cause all kinds of problems. So it's really incumbent upon you to make sure that you get your computers checked every so often.
And the FTC has a whole website devoted to how to do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with contacting your providers, your ISP, your internet service providers. But it will tell you, the Federal Trade Commission, and if you've been hacked, what to do. But he's right. Do you open attachments on emails from people that you don't know? Thank you. She was shaking her head right away. No. If you open an attachment, you may end up opening up your computer to the hack. Next thing you know, all your friends and family are getting an email that says you were in the Dominican Republic partying, and you ended up in jail, and you need wire money to get you out of jail. Protecting your computer, great. And hotspots. If you're at a place that provides you with wireless Wi-Fi, don't use your personal information. Don't open that up. Don't send your taxes from a Starbucks using a hotspot, because it's a place where everybody has access and it's dangerous. Do you have something? Okay. Questions?
Anybody? Yes, go ahead. You're glad you asked this question. Go ahead.
Ernie.
Okay, you're gonna let me ask you a question.
Put a camera on yourself.
A lot of people don't realize, and you could verify for me, that cell phones, smartphones in particular, are really just small computers. And when you go online on your phone, you're doing the same thing as you would do on a laptop. Provide for your security. Is that correct?
See, basically, that's what he's talking. I was trying to get at too. There's more technology on this phone right here, and than it was on the first lunar landing on the moon. There's more computer power in this than it was on the spaceship that landed on the moon 50 years ago, right? So what happens when you're using these things, especially when you're sending out a signal, every time you're talking on a phone, you're sending out a signal, right? And bad guys are trying to grab those signals and grab that information. And so what he's talking about with hotspots are your computer or your phone is sending off a signal. Let's say you're in a Starbucks and there's Wi-Fi there. Or anytime you're using Wi-Fi, it's a signal bouncing from your device to the hotspot, and then from there it goes elsewhere. Well, you could be sitting in Starbucks working on computers like a lot of people do. The guy right next to you could be sitting there trying to intercept the signals that are bouncing back and forth. So you got to be very mindful to make sure that your phones and your computers are secure. When I go overseas with the government, I never take my phone. I use what they call a burner phone, a phone that I don't normally use. And I have very limited information on there because you can almost be certain, if you're in certain countries, that they are hacking into your phones to get the information. And once they get that information, they have all your addresses, they have all your numbers, they have your credit card information, if any of that, they have access to your emails, and they can do all kinds of terrible things. So, not trying to scare you, but just understand technology is great, but it also is a Pandora's box of vulnerabilities, and you got to be aware of them when you're using them. So,
Any other questions? Debt collectors. If you get contacted for a debt you didn't incur, same as the credit card charge that you didn't incur, the Federal Trade Commission will tell you how to dispute that. Believe it or not, that's our number 2 complaint. Debt collectors collecting for money that you don't owe. So don't let them shake you down. Don't let them make you scared. You're in charge. What we hope happens today is that you develop a force field of fraud. And if you use these tips, I pity the fool that messes with you. You know Congressman Katko. He can get to us. You're in charge. So basically, let's stop scams before they start. And if we work together, then this meeting today will be a huge, huge difference. So for my part, I appreciate you doing this.
Unless there's any other questions, we can wrap up right on time, actually. Yes, go ahead.
The utility company, I don't pay much attention to it, so I'm probably not the right person to speak to it, but I have heard it. There's a utility company that tries to get you to go off your current utility company.
What's that?
ESCOs.
ESCOs, yeah. Okay.
So I was wondering, that's not actually a scam, I guess, because they don't really ask you for money, but they do ask you for your business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very persuasive.
Now, it's great that your radar is up, wondering if it's legit. And that's the first thing. If your gut tells you, should I check into this? Don't just gloss over it. Even if they sound legit, you have every right to check it out. You could call your current utility company. You could call the Federal Trade Commission. You could call a local government entity and say, does this company provide energy services here? There are some independent energy services, like Blue Rock Energy, for example, right? You could get different ones like that if you wanted to, switch from what you think is National Grid. So, but if you think in your gut that there might be an issue, pursue that before you jump in. That's all.
A very nice lady that comes here, Mary, yeah, and she's a great one to get those questions answered.
But there's also something you can do too. And to wrap this up, it's a perfect way to wrap it up. Our office, Gavin, raise your hand, Gavin. Gavin's right there, and Jim is back there too from my office. They spend all day working on constituent services. So if you have questions, you can call my office, and we can direct you to where you can get your answers if you don't know where to go. Or we can tell you, yeah, that's legit or it's not legit. We can check it out for you. So if you just call our office, and I can leave the number here. It's 423-5657, but you can get online and see the website. We have 6 staff full-time in Syracuse. All they do is deal with constituent services. It could be a veterans issue. It could be a scam issue. It could be about your Social Security check. It could be about anything. And if we're not the agents, if we're not the place to get the answer, we'll tell you where to go to get the answer. And we literally get thousands and thousands of calls a year. And we help, like if you called up our office and asked that, we tell you exactly where to go to find out where the issue is. So don't ever hesitate to use us, because that's what we're there for. And that's why we have such a robust staff in Syracuse.
I have to say, I've worked with them, and that's how I met Gavin. And where I said sometimes I have to be persistent to get members of Congress staff to do stuff, I had to keep up with Gavin.
Yeah, yeah. My staff knows very well. The first thing I tell them when I hire them is I never want to get a call saying that someone called me and called our office and didn't get good service. So they know that service is paramount. So if you have any questions about Social Security, about retirement, about taxes, or about anything, and you don't know where to turn, we can at least tell you. If it's a state issue, we'll tell you which office to call. If it's something that we can help you with, like veterans benefits is a big thing for us. We have Patrick McKinney in our office who spends almost his whole day, every day, on veterans issues alone. And we have, everybody has different subject areas, like Gavin does, and Tom Hag and others. So feel free to call our office. That's what we're here for. And that's why we're out doing this outreach. We do it all the time because we want you guys to understand that we have a service for you. And I think I speak for both of these folks today. This is not meant to scare you. It's just meant for you to be a little bit smarter. And you all have good hearts like I do, and you want to believe the best in people, but there are some bad people out there. And just have the radar up a little bit is probably the best message you can get today. If it sounds too good, it probably is. And think logically. Why would 911 be calling me? Why would the IRS be calling me and saying I got to have it right now? IRS is slow as hell, man. Nothing's done immediately, right? So think about that, right? So just think logically. And if something sounds funny or smells funny, check into it before you jump in with your checkbook, right? So thank you very much for this. I thank you both for being here. Appreciate it. And we're going to do a telephone town hall. Aaron, what time is that? 12:45? What time? 12:45. So we may catch you on the phone. If we call you, you can answer. Thank you guys very much. All right. Thanks, Appreciate it. That was really good. It was really good. Why don't you pass out to everybody? Yeah, we got it.
Get your notebooks up here.
Nice to see you. I've seen you before. Yeah, it's nice to see you, man. How are you?
About the cybersecurity.
Yeah.
If someone goes to the public library and they use the public computer,
Yeah.
and you were saying, like you go to Starbucks and they could intercept your signal, is that true with the library too?
It could be, but if you're using a library computer, it's online. It's not using Wi-Fi probably, so probably if it's attached to a wire, it's
I
not.
think it is, yeah.
If it's wireless, it's sending out a signal. You know what I mean?
Oh,
You got
but
it?
if it's plugged in
Right.
with a wire, I don't have to worry.
Right. Right.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you told me that. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah. Okay?
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Nice. I hope it was helpful.
Yeah, oh, this was so helpful.
Good.
I learned a lot. Thank you.